Hello, everyone. My name is Cornel Fatulescu. I'm Chief Platform Officer at Pentalog, meaning I'm in charge with product strategy and technology strategy of the group. And I'm very, very happy to be here with you and to moderate this CTO talk via PentaBAR, a wonderful event Pentalog is doing for a while back. So hopefully this is not the first and only CTO talk, one of the many. And I think there is something very structural happening at Pentalog in this year, and we are preparing for a wonderful 2022, where you are going to hear many wonderful news for CTOs and for technology teams. And one of these aspects is we are getting more and more open. So in what we do and how we work with the technology teams and with CTOs. And the CTO Fundamentals with Bunny Shell was one of the activities that we've done. And I'm very happy we've done it. We had great interactions and good feedback, and people that appreciate it got help from it. And CTO Talks is adding to that same vision that we have. And it's just a matter of time that we are going to announce it clearly and along with other things that will happen in 2022. But I can already tell you 2022 is full with wonderful news about CTO tools and events and artifacts that CTOs can make benefit of, and technology teams. And now that being said, I'm very happy to also tell you that we start this session with Stewart from Atom Bank. And I've built this big list of questions. I've collected them from people I've personally interacted with after CTO Fundamentals, and with the colleagues from Pentalog and from CTO friends. And we will have lots of fun in this session. And more important for those who are connected, very important, shoot your questions here in this chat. I will be notified and I will add them to the list. And I hope it will be also a pleasure for Stewart to answer to them. Stewart, please join. You are welcome, and say a few words about your background.
Yeah, thanks, Cornel. Yeah, I'm Stewart Bromley. I've been with Atom Bank since day one, officially the first employee. Mixture of roles over that period. I started off by building the bank and managing all the operations, and actually was COO, and and that included the technology. I then gave the technology away to a CTO, and more recently I've switched roles. So I've taken back on the technology role and given away the operational side. So, but I've been involved in technology all my working life. And in fact, I was doing web development back in the mid 90s. So I'm not just new to digital. So I was probably doing that sort of stuff before many of you were born.
Yeah, it's been a while, 90s. Web changed a bit. But we're not going to talk about that because it's a different series, I think. But we want to talk here about the CTO role. And I think, for sure, you know, it's very difficult to say what the CTO role is, what it means. So please share with us what's your vision about the CTO role? How and of course, how does it work at Atom Bank?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, CTO roles vary in terms of their accountability to scope from one business to the next. In Atom, it's pretty much all encompassing. So yeah, I'm accountable for all aspects of technology. That's from technology strategy to to IT delivery, execution, to DevOps, to security, to service management, the whole thing.
Whole thing, like security.
Yep.
Data.
Yep.
Compliancy.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Infrastructure.
Yes. Not that we have any. It's all cloud-based, but yes.
Wow.
Infrastructure as code.
Wow. So how does it work with that's a lot for one person to bear, huh? And how much do you kind of delegate in terms of authority to your teams, to your what can you tell about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, well, I guess it's probably worth just explaining how I make up the team, I guess. So I have 5 direct reports. I have a head of architecture who does all of the enterprise architecture, solutions architecture, and sort of business analysis work. I have a head of advanced engineering, and advanced in that context is beforehand. So they do all the upfront sort of technical landscaping work. So, how is something from a solutions architect turned into code? And they do a lot of rapid prototyping, etc. I then have our core engineering teams that are all sort of Scrum and Kanban based, that there's a mixture of engineers and testers and DevOps people. I then have an IT delivery team that manage all of that. So they are sort of Scrum masters and manage the process, the end-to-end process of change, resource capacity utilization, those sorts of things. And then I have an IT ops team that manages just all the service management and operational side of the business, but they also manage security. So the head of IT ops is actually is sort of basically the CISO as well.
Okay. Traditionally, the role of CTO was to translate the research for business and the business to technology research. Do you play a role as a translator? How much of your role is being a translator for the business stakeholders and for the board?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it's a fair amount of the role. We are a digital bank. In fact, we're a mobile only bank, right? So yeah, it is a digital self-service model. So the whole bank construct is a technology, bank. There is very little beyond the technology footprint of the bank, right? Yes, we have a treasury function that performs a really important role, and a credit risk function, and we have an operational team there to support customers. But ultimately, this is a digital self-service bank. So as a CTO, your role is not there just to be, I guess, an order taker to fulfill, business needs, business requirements. You're there to actually shape the business, right? To actually inform based off what is the art of the possible, to drive the business forward, to look at the opportunities and the threats, and actually to solve those opportunities through the use of technology.
So in a sense, this is a typical business where technology strategy is business strategy and business strategy is technology strategy. They are the same.
Yeah, one informs the other. I mean, obviously we have a business vision that's a very business orientated vision in terms of what the business is about. But from a strategy perspective, how you underpin that, the business strategy informs the technology strategy, and the technology strategy informs the business strategy. They work hand in glove. They have to work absolutely synonymous.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, and in terms of co-partnering with the executive officer, I'm sure you have one. So how much of your time is time spent with your executive officer?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly important relationship, especially in a digital business, right? So yeah, I work very, very closely with the chief executive officer. But I have to say, in a small business, any startup, you have to be highly collaborative across the executive team, right? It only works when it all works. So I could say, I have to work very, very closely with our chief financial officer, our chief risk officer, our chief operational officer, our chief customer officer. It only works when you all pull in the same direction and align, that the work and the strategies, to create the experience that you're trying to deliver, right? So yeah, it's a very, very small, close-knit executive team that, we work, every day in one form or another together, to make decisions, to move the business forward.
Okay. So I see there is already a question, but before that, just have one that links from this translation and working with the board, with the C-level. And please, Tim, who helps me, just notify me if I'm talking too much, because I have already so many questions. So about the struggle with the decision making, in a sense, when you work with all this C-level, everyone, you've said, the risk officer, executive, many decisions. I can only imagine. So, but every organization has the limiting number of decisions they can implement. So it felt right whenever we've worked with CTOs that limiting the number of decisions and having some sort of rule with the board about it was important. So how does it work? How do you feel in these regards?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question, and it's a tricky one to answer, right? Because yeah, if you try to limit the decision making, then you end up with some form of sequential delivery that's never going to underpin what your customers want or what your shareholders want or expect, right? So that's impossible. And if you try and do far too much, then you just spread yourself too thin, and nothing gets delivered, right? So it is a challenge. I wouldn't lie. But I think that in art, that is, yeah, a significant part of the role, which is not to necessarily limit decisions. That's not the issue, but to make sure that the prioritization of what you work on, because it's a prioritization decision, isn't it? What you work on is the stuff that generates the biggest return, either through improving customer experience or customer growth or profitability or whatever it may be. And to really be in tune with what those things are that's going to have that biggest bang for the buck, right? And yeah, and we often get squeezed to do more than ideally you have capacity for. But you have to, as a CTO, that's your challenge, right? You have to find a way. You have to find, how do you curtail the scope? How do you stay very focused on minimum viable product? How do you deliver things in small chunks, bite size, that you can get through this, this myriad of things, at pace, right? And that's a big part of the role.
Okay. So I'm going to look at the question from the public. Do you think, Nikolai, do you think each CTO comes with his own 100 customized recipe for the role, or there are some best practices that each CTO should follow?
I think that's, I think that's will be pretty down to the type of business you're in and what your business is trying to achieve. I think that might vary, right? I mean, we don't do everything in-house. We believe, I guess if I go back to our core business drivers are our customer experience and cost efficiency and agility, right? And therefore the technology strategy is there to underpin those three things, including technology itself. We have to be quick, we have to be efficient, and we have to be very customer focused, right? So therefore, we code things around all our native app development, our integration layer, our data layer, because data is so important to actually how you form customer experience. But then we buy best in breed solutions typically, right? And I think that works for us to get that right balance of agility and cost efficiency, right? But that may not be right for every business. So I think you have to really understand what your business strategy is, what your business is really trying to achieve, and then form a technology strategy that really does deliver, right? And therefore, I don't think there's a one size fits all type answer to the question. It very much depends on the nature of your business and what your business is trying to achieve.
Okay. Hope, Nikolai, that answered to your question. I'll add up to Nikolai's question. So, we've talked with some CTOs, and we were looking to it, and it feels impossible to say a recipe like this is how it should work, and it will work for every business. However, we've managed to extract some attributes that were important, like translator role. The CTO seems there is no CTO not doing it, and if they are not doing it, something is going to, or partnering with the board and the executive officer. And these are often things that we miss, and you've wonderfully described them and how they work at Atom Bank. Regarding to the journey of Atom Bank as becoming a public company, I'm sure you've contributed to that in many regards. So what can you tell us about the way you've contributed and the way any CTO should contribute whenever the case?
Yeah, so again, I think it does depend a little bit in terms of the nature of the business. Now we're a bank again, we're a digital bank. This is a technology, driven company in so many ways, right? And if you're thinking about an IPO or becoming public, what you need to prove is a few things. You need to prove consistent execution delivery, right, as a bank against your business plan, right? You have to be consistently delivering, and you have to have an exciting proposition that's differentiated, that's going places and is driving profitability, right? You have to show profitability. That's why people will be interested. That's why people will invest in you, is for those things. And if you think of it, if we're a digital technology bank, then as CTO, you're rather close to the heart of that, aren't you? Because actually that delivery execution is wholly based on your ability as a technology team to execute, right? To deliver, either the new functions and features that drives the profitable growth, the product, everything else, the customer experience, and or just simply, we're back to the cost efficiency. We are a highly automated business, right? And that automation comes through technology, right? So the day-to-day performance of the business is completely related to the performance of your technology team, right? We will fail if we fail as a technology team. It's not a choice. It's not just a nice to have. It's an essential component, right? And therefore, your role to achieving a successful IPO is wholly dependent on you delivering as a chief technology officer.
So, and when the Atom Bank is pitching to investors or to financial partners and all this crazy work, very simple to do. Is it you who's pitching what's being done? Is it the executive officer? Is it together? How does it work?
Yeah, so typically, obviously, the investor deck, the deck that we present, is one that's constructed across the organization. So we all have pages within that deck that is shared. The people that front those conversations tends to be the chief executive officer, chief financial officer. It's those typical type roles that front that conversation. But invariably, if anybody's interested, the next phase is they'll want to do due diligence, right? And for sure, when they come in, technology is one of the things they really want to get to understand in a lot more detail, right? So then, yes, you're front of stage dealing with potential investors and actually existing investors, talking through the technology strategy and technology performance and how we do things. So that it's very, very much you're an integral part of getting an investor over the line or maintaining confidence in your existing investors.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And we are going to have a new question from Dan. I'm going to read it. Considering the CTO can't physically assure presence amongst all engineering teams' operations, what's your solution for keeping close to these teams, and have transparency on its internals, velocity, delivery, engineering?
Yeah, I think that's I'd love to have more time actually with the teams. I have a fortnightly meeting where I sort of cascade business performance and information and open it up to Q&As, and I do run focus groups, etc. But I'd love to spend more time with some of the front end guys, and therefore you are dependent on the sort of, I guess, the chain of command in terms of managing a team that's now about 150 people strong in Atom. And you're also responsible. You use the data, right? I mean, the good thing about taking an agile approach is that it's very, very data rich, right? I can literally log into Jira or any of the tools we use, and you can see the velocities, the burn down charts, the status of things. You can see the issues, all the time. So it is very, very data rich, which actually makes your job slightly easier, because you can see when things are going well, you can see when things are not going so well, right? And I have daily stand-ups with my direct reports every day, We all have a just, so that's sort of, the concepts of agile is not just for your engineering teams, it's a business-wide thing, right? So every day I will have stand-ups and we'll talk, to the progress, to the issues, and we work things out together, right? I think the role of the CTO is somewhat a problem solver, but I very rarely get involved in technical problem solving, because the expertise of the people in the teams, the talent tends are much more well equipped to deal with those sorts of issues than I am. But I certainly do get involved in problem solving from a sort of an organizational level, a business layer, at a strategic level, that you're dealing with every day, right? So I think you all have different roles, but you have to use the talent in the team to get the best out of the team, right? You hire great people and you set them free. You don't try and constrain them.
Great. So music to my ears, hopefully for everyone, and then hopefully this answers to your question, and you jump to another one. But before doing that, you've said the Jira, and I had this conversation a week ago with the CTO, and it's like everything all the projects are and all the companies come with Jira by default, by design. You did the Atlassian stack and on it, and this is not ads. I'm not paid. I'm not. I'm just wondering, have you meet other tools with your CTO's friends in the last 2 years? Is there anything that you've seen?
Well, I think it's not just Jira, is it? I mean, there's a whole suite of tools, but we're probably no different to most, I guess, modern IT shops, right? Whether it's the automated testing tools or the GitLabs or the we use all the same sort of stuff. I don't think there's much between any of them. I think Jira is one of almost those sort of de facto standards these days, isn't it? And again, I don't. There might well be other perfectly good tools out there, but in some ways it sort of helps if you take the common tools, because as you hire new people, you know that you don't have to train up to how to use Jira, right? Because they come equipped with all that knowledge and skill. So yeah, we've got a whole kit bag of tools. And I think we're pretty much up there in terms of what the other leading IT shops use, and I think that's a good place to be. Okay,
it seems like the whole world is optimizing the same functions, and we are heading the same way. And one last thing related to the stack of tools like Jira. So if someone in your team, like a Scrum Master, said you're doing Scrum, like a Scrum Master would say, I think we've reached the limits of Jira and this is the new tool that we want to use. How would you interact with this person, and how would you, is your decision, is his, how is it working?
Yeah, no, it's a collective decision. So absolutely, I welcome the guys coming up with ideas around what's next or what we should be using. And we do get recommendations to use new tools, all the time, in various guises. And actually, we assess them. Obviously, it's not necessarily just that straightforward. We have to make sure that it meets our security policies, and because we can't just be the Wild West. It will just expose us. So obviously, there's various people that get involved in then the decision around, is that the right tool? Does it give us the benefit? Is it going to give us what we need? But yeah, we do entertain that. In fact, I guess not necessarily every week, but I'd definitely say at least monthly that we have new things come up that people want to give a go and try and evaluate, and we do. Okay, good. Now, getting back to Dan's question. Oh, wow! So happy to see so many questions. So done. It was, do managers require to be highly technical, like ex-developers? Well, it depends on what role you're in, of course. Obviously I don't. I think in technology you do need to have a level of technical know-how in the discipline you are. So if you're a team leader, a coach, a manager in an engineering function, and you have no idea how to engineer stuff, then you'll probably struggle to get the best out of the team, right? So I think you do need a level of know-how, but you don't need to be the expert either, you know. So if you've got an engineering background, almost in whatever flavor of coding language, you know, you can then manage people that might be writing in completely different languages, right? So, so for example, some of our backend microservices are written in Golang. You don't need to be a Golang expert to manage that team, but you certainly need to understand, engineering as a discipline, right? And have that experience, I think, to get the most out of them. So I think, yes, I think you do need a level of technical competence, technical know-how in technology, right? I think having nothing, I think you'd struggle.
Okay, so I have a very sensitive questions for you. When was the last time you've pushed your code went in production? When was it? Was it today? Was it 1 week ago? Was it 2 years ago?
Was it me personally or Atom Bank?
Yeah, you've written something, you've corrected something, and it's...
So we do app releases every week, and have done for at least the last 6 months, right?
Yeah, but you in person as a CTO, when was the last time?
So interestingly, I do actually look after one piece of code, but that's almost an aside, if you like. So we have part of our business banking has an awful lot of stuff actually in VBA of all things, right? And actually, I have actually maintained and developed some of that code, and actually a lot of that went into prod about a month ago, right? And actually I've got another release coming out in about 2 weeks. So yes, I can program in about 15 different languages. I started out in assembler languages, real-time processing, real-time systems. So yeah, I do have a background. I can code, and I do, interestingly. But certainly, I wouldn't go anywhere near our core banking stack these days. The guys on the ground are just years now ahead of me in terms of what they can do compared to what I'm used to doing, I have to say.
That's wonderful. They have the skills, they have the authority, the autonomy, and you respect that. That's great to hear. A question from Vlad. What is the great management hierarchy from CTO down to the software engineer?
So what's I didn't quite catch that, the hierarchy.
Great management hierarchy.
Yeah.
From CTO down to the software engineer.
So yeah, I mean, we're a very, very flat structure. We only have 4 grade bands in the whole of the company, right? So so I'm an executive member, so chief technology officer. I have a heads of team. As I said, we've got 5 of those. They would typically have up to about 8 direct reports that tend to be principal engineers or lead analysts or leaders, and then you typically then have the engineers themselves, and the engineers. We have juniors, mids, and seniors, of course, but there's no hierarchy in that. So we have different levels of capability, but they're still all in the same hierarchy. So we only actually have 4 levels of hierarchy from the top to the bottom of the team. Right?
4 layers. Good.
So it's very, very flat.
Okay. Sounds very similar to what I'm used to and what we also have. So hopefully this answers to Vlad. Christian, sorry for spelling. Should CTO code take part in development infrastructure setup? But I think you've already said that. You want to add something, Stewart, or should we go to the next question?
I think move on. I think we've probably answered that.
Yeah, the same. Andrea, a question for both of you, Stewart and Cornel. What you like to most and what you like the least? What you like the most and what you like the least in your current past CTO job?
I think I think this is a leadership role. Don't underestimate that this is a you have to lead in this role, right? And I enjoy that a lot, right? I enjoy the fact that you are a business leader. You're there to help deliver frame and deliver the overall business strategy. You're there to inspire, a lot of people to do a lot of things, right? And to have that degree of influence and leadership, to inspire, to shape, to drive. I enjoy immensely. I think that's and I think that's the part that I absolutely love. I think the challenge always comes in that your appetite as a startup business is always much bigger than your ability to deliver. And I think that can be frustrating. We have such brilliant ideas, but can you get to them all? No, you can't, right? And that's life, right? I don't think it'll be any other way. But that's hard because you just want to keep going. The job becomes completely relentless, right? It overtakes your life. You never switch off, and you have to be a certain individual to be able to stand that pressure, right? So I think that's the stuff that can get to you. It does get to you, but the job is just it's a brilliant job. It's a really exciting job. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for everybody. But if you can stand the pressure and the relentlessness of what it's about, it's truly rewarding.
Yeah, and I think a part of the question was also for me. So what I enjoy is engineering innovation and how this helps problem solving. We have a saying in architecture that you don't really solve problems. You replace them with something else you'd rather solve and maintain. So there's always this to optimize. And I think engineering plays a very important role in any business today. And being part of that, that's amazing.
We have a saying that if the best way to predict the future is to create it. And as a CTO, you're constantly creating.
Let's look at new questions. My CTO looks at every pull request. How about that? I let you.
No, actually, that's not true. Obviously we have different size things. We have big projects, and obviously I'll be actively involved in the decision making around the big projects. I get asked to review and prioritize sort of the medium stuff. The sand, the pebbles, the small stuff. It's been a long time since I looked at that. That's whatever the guys want to prioritize and do, they get on and do, right? Or squeeze in, because obviously when it's sand, you can squeeze quite a bit in, regardless of the big stuff. So certainly I get involved in the big decisions, but certainly some of the day-to-day stuff that goes on, I don't get involved in at all. I'm nowhere near.
Okay. I think it was generic also for like my CTO. So Christian, who has a CTO, is doing that. And what's your opinion about it? Is it good for a CTO to look at that?
I think it depends on how you operate, but obviously, we are very much an agile shop, and one of the key concepts of agile is to have self-directed teams, right? You gotta entrust your teams to get on with stuff, right? And if you try and get involved, all you're actually going to do is stifle, that creativity, that innovation, that progress. So my view is no, you want to stay out of it as much as you can, right? Would be go the opposite direction. As again, I said it earlier, hire talented people and set them free. Don't try and manage them, right? They are brilliant at what they do. Set them free and let them get on with it.
Hopefully, Christian, you've got your answer, and now you know how to help your CTO. Dan, obviously, Atom is a young company, and so legacy and technical debt are not a major concern. And is it? But how is your current technical strategy covering this topic in order to anticipate this topic early and still remain in a cost-effective mode?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, right?
Thank you, Dan.
So we don't have technical debt, I guess, like some of the incumbent large banks, we don't have legacy technology. We've probably got one of the best banking stacks there is going, right? In terms of, it's real time, it's event driven, it's cloud native, it's, we use Kafka data streaming and data meshes, and we are way up there in terms of the technical stack that we currently deploy, right? But don't underestimate technical debt, right? We will make decisions in practically every scrum, in every sprint, right? Where we would make decisions to potentially cut corners to favor speed over some of our architectural principles, right? And I think that's fine as long as you go into it eyes wide open, right? You need to know it, right? So where you get problems is where you create technical debt and you don't know you're creating technical debt, and then you have to find a way of digging yourself out of creating that technical debt. That's where it becomes a problem. But if you go into it eyes wide open, that actually you're going to create a little bit of technical debt because actually that gets you to speed to market, and that's trumps, and that's more important than the rework that you have to do or the iteration you have to do to remove the technical debt, that can be completely fine. So yeah, we as a business, we carry technical debt all the time, right? But 99% of that technical debt is something we have consciously done, knowing that it was done for the right business reasons, right? So, and there was a plan then to eliminate that technical debt. That's you have to plan that in.
So we also ended up with a definition of technical debt, and I kind of resonate with what you said. Let me say it and tell me, Stuart, if you confirm it or not, it's the same thing. So as you said, we take decisions and we take shortcuts, and that's also an important source of technical debt. And in our view, technical debt is the complete list of wishes that we have to maintain the system operationally, cost effective and scalable, and of course adaptable. So we have all this list with shortcuts that we've taken, bugs that we've found, which are kind of in the architecture area, even the security vulnerabilities that were found end up in the same technical debt list. So do you agree with this, or simple definition?
Yeah, I do. I mean, as long as you're going into it with all of the impacts of that debt understood before you create it, and you're going in knowing that that's what you're doing and it's okay because you've got a way to to solve it later, then that can be a perfectly valid question. Now, not sometimes it isn't. Once you say, should we do it this way? We have a technical design authority, and if we try and if we're deviating from some of our architecture principles, that comes to that TDA, and sometimes we say no, we're going to stick to this because, right? So but the point is it becomes an overt conversation. You're consciously making a decision whether you're going to do it or not, right? And I think that's the way forward. So technical debt in its own right is not a wrong thing. It's completely valid, right? But do it eyes wide open. Know that you're doing it.
It reminds me of when people look at the CTO role from the outside, they have sometimes the feeling that we are choosing from these 2-3 great solutions that we have, while usually you have 2-3 intermediate steps that to make progress, in fact, and there's always something in between, and you are incrementing a bit towards excellence. There's no such thing great from the start and everything works, and it reminds me about it, and I think it's core to what we do and the decisions we take. And I have here a question about accessibility, so I'm going to end to that. Before asking that question, is accessibility issues, things getting, I don't know, not done then, part of the technical debt or not?
Well, again, I think you can make decisions on that. As I said, we use native code in our apps that massively help accessibility, because then you can plug and play with all the layered technology such as screen readers, etc. on top of it. The fact you're app-based anyway in banking really helps. You know, our oldest customer is over 100 years old, right? So, you know, getting to the local branch that might be 10 miles away is not that easy, right? Whereas if you can access your bank's accounts via your armchair, via your iPad, it really does improve. So you open yourselves up to, you know, to a much wider audience. In fact, we were the first bank in Europe to use you know, Face ID, you know, biometrics, and therefore you don't even, you know, so if you struggle to remember passwords, you don't even need a password. You know, you can use your face to log in and do your banking, right? So the point there is that, you know, accessibility and digital, I think, go very well together. You know, it's an incredibly important point that you're creating solutions that are accessible, and there's always more to be done. So back to your point, yes, you make decisions, of course, that satisfy you know, I guess you know, a wider degree of your population as a starting point, but that doesn't mean we're making those decisions without understanding the accessibility angle. So it's a very important point to consider.
Yeah, I really like the our oldest customer is 100 years old, so that's I think it's wonderful. So I also have to run a test with what we do and see what I get. Great test, huh? So a question from Peter: how to find a CTO, where to look, and what is important for a CTO to come into a team?
Well, I mean, I think that's again, it's another great question, and I think it does depend exactly in terms of where you are in your maturity. So, if you like, the previous CTO to me that we hired in Atom Bank did a fantastic job, and his background was very architecturally based, and that's because we were going through a process of re-architecting the bank, right? And he did a great job because actually it worked. We did re-architect the bank. We did, you know, produce a whole bunch of new technologies. We have moved the whole bank and migrated off all our legacy, which wasn't particularly legacy, onto the new platforms. So he did his job. I think the role next was much more one of, you know, leading and growing a team to deliver towards an IPO, or to create that cost efficiency and and agile engine that can be really productive, and that requires a slightly different skill set, right? So hence, you know, our last CTO decided to move on, and I've taken over the mantle for this next period. And actually, you know, there could well be a different CTO for the next part of our maturity, because, you know, that might require something new and something different again. So I think you need to find people that can deliver what you need, you know, in the moment and for that next sort of 2-3 year horizon, right? I don't think you should be scared about, you know, moving people on beyond that type of period, because you evolve as a business, and therefore you may need to evolve the competencies and the capabilities that you need to evolve the business, and that's completely fine. I think if people think that they're in a role for 10, 15, 20 years, I think that can be stifling again. I think you'll lose the creativity, you'll lose you know, the edge, because technology is moving at such a pace, right? And you know, and we don't look inside the industry, we look way beyond the industry for talent, because yeah, there's always people out there that's pushing the boundaries and moving things on. And if you're not prepared to sort of evolve and go with those times and try some of that stuff, you'll ultimately be left behind. So I think you need to evolve the competencies as the business requires.
Okay. I will go to one of my next questions about DevSecOps. So you've talked a bit about IT ops. So what's your feeling? Is that a thing you are doing? Do you have an own definition of it because it's a cultural thing? Are you somewhere in a, I don't know, maturity scale at starter or very good at it? And how do you feel?
Well, I think we're pretty good at it actually. I think we have won national awards for our for our DevOps capabilities. So we can't be that bad. We have grown those competencies massively over the last few years. As again, we are huge. We're GCP, we're Google Shop, so we are Kubernetes. We believe in containerization. Infrastructure as code. We fully automate deployments. If you go back to the old days, it would take you 6 months to build a new component of the bank just by having to specify infrastructure, purchase, install, commission. It's a hugely lengthy process. These days we can spin up a new component of the bank in minutes. We can spin up the whole bank in hours, right? I mean, and then spin it back down again when you no longer want it. The DevOps, DevSecOps even. Capabilities are incredibly important to agility, and then you can benefit from the auto scaling and the auto healing and all the other benefits you get from sort of that sort of capability. So incredibly important, I think. And if you're not doing it, you really need to get yourselves into a mode where you're using it, because those capabilities are game changing in terms of what you can do, right? So incredibly important, and it's a big change. It's a massive change for the benefit for Atom. I'd say the one thing, I believe in it. You've got to believe in it wholeheartedly, though. You've got to use these tools. Kubernetes is a brilliant tool, but you've really got to know how to use it, and therefore you have to invest in your people, right? You have to develop your people, train them up. Don't take this lightly. You need to build the competencies to really get the most out of it.
Can you say a few words about, you've said investing in people? What about assessing your people? How do you assess? How does it work at Pentalog? So what kind of assessments do you have during the interviews, and then continuously to see where to improve?
We again, I don't think we're particularly any different to many companies. We believe cultural fit is as important as competency. So we will assess cultural fit, values-based. We're a values-based business. We want people that don't just get those values, but are those values, or they identify with those values. So we assess culture as much as competency. On the technical competency, yes, we do interviews, to your point, but then there's always typically another type of exercise. That could be doing a presentation on something. If you're an engineer, it could be reviewing some sample code and telling us what you would do to improve it or change it. So we do some sort of technical, challenge as well, typically as part of that process, right? But again, that will vary depending on the type and nature of the role that we're doing. So yeah, we use a raft of different techniques as part of that selection process.
Okay. Another question. A comment from Christian. It just appears that autonomous teams are not the case in some companies. It just appears, I think, that autonomous teams are not the case in some companies or projects. It follows your answer in regard to my CTO is looking at in Git. Vlad asks, should engineers QA their work or have dedicated QAs? What is your take here?
I think it has to be a bit of both, actually. So I think at a unit test level, you'd want engineers testing their own stuff, right? Because there's no point in moving that on if they've just written it, they should be able to test it themselves, right? So I think there's a little bit that they should test and validate their own work. Obviously, we now have testers directly embedded in our Scrum teams, in the sprint, and they will do more sort of, I guess, the functional integrated testing as opposed to sort of some of the unit testing. But they work as a collective, they work as a team, and they will definitely divvy that work up as they go through a sprint, as you'd expect them to, right? So it's not as though you're sort of bound to your role. You will spread to do what's right to get that work done as part of that sprint activity, right? So, but I am a big believer that you should be accountable for your work, and therefore the the first set of testing and QA should be self-orientated. We do code walkthroughs, etc., as a team, but that's between one engineer and another, and that's as much about sharing best practice and developing people and making sure there's again a collective responsibility, because we maintain that after the event across the whole department, right? So you don't want someone going off and doing things their own way. You want to make sure that it's set into a common set of standard coding practices, etc. So yeah, we do code walkthroughs across the team, but that tends to be engineer to engineer. It's a mutual thing.
Okay. Thanks for the answer, Vlad. Hopefully this is well. Now I see something is not a question. It's from my Pentalog colleagues. This is ads, I believe, for about technology trends. And there's we're working from year to year about technology trends, and there's a link there. The last release was at the end of 2021, and we are making it for the next the upcoming year, 2022. And but let's refer to that. How do you feel about technology trends? What do you think will happen in 2022?
I don't. I think there's still an awful lot to be done with the technologies that have really been around now for sort of 4 or 5 years, right? Yeah, I think cloud is becoming a standard. I think cloud native stuff. I think that's progressed very well. I think AI, I think, still has a long way to go before it really becomes truly embedded in the way that I guess it could be embedded. So I think that's got a long way to go. I think there's an awful lot of automation in code and code development. That again, I think some of these tools are becoming better and better, but I still think there's a lack of trust or know-how in terms of what they are actually generating. So I think the jury's out on that front. I think actually in our world, we're very obviously mobile centric, but actually, voice command, voice control is becoming, very dominant in some sectors. And you think, again, I think we're only sort of scratching the surface of actually the capabilities that technology can offer in that regard today. I think that's going to grow. In fact, in a lab today, you can control a computing device very happily using brainwave recognition, right? Mm-hmm. And if that's in a lab today, how many years do you think it will be before that's how we'll interface to our devices, right? Probably 10, 15 years. And in this big scheme of things, that's not very far away, right? So I think technology is going to continue to advance at pace. And I think as a company, you can't predict what that next fad or that next thing is, I don't think. But what you can do is make sure you've got agility as a team, and you've got an architecture that can plug and play with technologies, because it is those that can change and adapt the quickest will capitalize on what they can bring to your business and to your customers and shareholders, right? So I think agility and an architectural platform that enables agility is actually what's really essential. Because if I knew exactly what was going to be next, I could be a very rich person. Unfortunately, I'm not. So
there's also a question about somehow related to the future, present software-defined infrastructure. If you have plans about it, and
well, in reality, I mean, it depends on how far you go on that. But yeah, we already are there to large degrees, right? We don't own a single piece of infrastructure. We use, like I say, Kubernetes. We believe in containerization, and therefore we control every ounce of our infrastructure via code. It is code, software. We can change parameters and change code. We automatically deploy things. We auto scale. We auto heal. All this is all software. We don't touch a single bit of tin ever, right? So I think we're already in that position where, and I think that's only going to progress. If you look at the plans on Kubernetes as an example, some of the things that's come in just take it even to the next level, right? So, but I think we're already pretty much, infrastructure as code. That's where we're at.
So in a sense, can we ask ourselves if there should be a company not doing it, today?
I think if you're not, then you will fall behind, and I really mean that. You know, you just the opportunities it gives you, both in terms of resilience, you know, security, you know, certainty, and speed, is game changing, right? So if you're not cloud native, or planning to be cloud native, and are developing cloud native type capabilities, and that doesn't have to be public cloud, it can be private cloud. There's other ways of doing some of this stuff. But if you're not tackling, if you're not, you know, using those capabilities, you will get left behind. I think that's, for me, that's absolutely clear.
Okay, okay. Happy to hear this, and happy for everyone hearing this today. So we still have, I know, 4 minutes. There is one question that I didn't ask already, and before doing that, yeah, let's take one question from the public, the last one, and then I will go to another one from my list. What are your top 3 pain points as a CTO?
Oh, I don't know. Pain points. Well, I think I mentioned one, that, you know, you can never do it all. So I think that's, yeah, that's frustrating, right? But it's true.
Only CTOs have this problem. Only CTOs.
Certainly, a big pain point at the moment is recruitment, resourcing. Yeah, in the UK today, there's 1 million vacant jobs, and over 100,000 of those are technology roles. So, you know, there's a massive fight for talent, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. You know, as I've said, we're sort of double-edged sword. We use some of the latest technologies, you know, Kafka and you know, cloud native things, for example. That's great news, because that actually attracts talent, because you got to play with some great technology. But equally, you know, those people get trained up and they use this stuff for a couple of years, and they become, yeah, very valuable, and therefore, you know, they go on to bigger and better things, which is great for them. So I think the model's right, but it means that you're constantly looking for talent, right? And that is by far the biggest pain point today, just because there just isn't enough talent out there to hire and to train, right? That, yeah, there's a massive fight on talent. So that's by far the biggest pain point, I think, for us today.
Okay, and there were 3. So do you have another one?
Good questions like that. That's a pain point.
Okay, so there are many debates about sovereignty, about owning data, owning the infrastructure, the networking behind. And of course, we can look at the trends, and most of the companies are hybrid in a sense, and they say it's because of that, or maybe because they have lots of technical debt. But what's your take on it?
So again, I think that depends on your business strategy. So I talked earlier, yeah, we own all our app development, we do in-house. So that, yeah, so that's like sovereign, if you like. We believe in owning the integration layer, because we want to plug and play with other tech at speed. So we own the integration layer, and we own data. So we do all our own data development, data insights, analytics, modeling. That's all done in-house. We really don't care much beyond that, right? So if you take our core banking platform, we use Thought Machine today. You know, we buy best in breed and integrate, right? We don't develop those things ourselves. We think we get a better speed to market, better agility, you know, better cost efficiency by buying component off the shelf products. We don't own all that stuff. We do host some of that stuff where it's all cloud-based. We do that. Some of it is SaaS-based, and we don't even own the hosting. It's through third-party contracts. So that varies. But actually, you know, in terms of things we want to own that, because we think that's key to delivering the customer experience and the agility and the cost efficiency of the business, right? But even with Thought Machine, for example, the reason we chose Thought Machine is Thought Machine splits into 2 layers. You've got a sort of a core layer that they own, and then there's a banking layer that we configure to create new banking products and services through Python and smart contracts and APIs and And therefore, you get the best of both worlds. You get agility, but you get certainty, and you get cost efficiency, and you get, so you've got to devise a tech strategy that's right for your business and your business drivers, I think, right? So there's no right or wrong answer to sovereignty, but we know from our strategy what's key to us and what we want to own versus stuff that's less important.
So you've said something about smart contracts, there's this typical question about blockchain. Is this going to really have the greatest impact on companies in the future, or in value chain? So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think it's like any technology. I think a lot of people try and exploit that technology for all the wrong reasons. It's not particularly good at certain things, right? But actually, I think there are some really good use cases where blockchain, makes a huge difference and is really worth doing, right? So I think it's the same as any technology. It absolutely has its place, and if you use it for what it's really designed and what it's good at doing, then you'll get benefits from it, right? So yeah, I'm a fan of blockchain. I don't have an issue with blockchain, but I do think there's a lot of companies that sort of go after a blockchain solution when in reality it doesn't really have much at all, right? I mean, it's hype.
Yeah, we have this technology, let's build something valuable with it.
Yeah.
So I think we've finished, run out of time. I still have some 20 questions for you. But time is time, and it was a pleasure for me, Stewart. Do you have any, an end note, something to tell to the audience before closing the session?
I guess, I mean, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Cornel, and I hope this has been of interest to the audience. I mean, my only, I guess, view of, especially as a CTO, is don't underestimate the importance of your role, as a leader within your business, right? Because it's a privilege to be the CTO of Atom Bank. And I don't underestimate, the influence that I have over what we do and don't do as a business because of this role. And I'm sure that's true for you as well. So never underestimate, I guess the power and the difference that you can make to your shareholders, your employees, and your customers, right? So it's a privilege.
Wow. CTO as a privilege. Wow, that is so powerful. Thank you, Stewart. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully see you at the next CTO talk. Bye, everyone.